Hello, welcome to Queer Cinema Catchup. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
And today we are talking about the new Max movie, The Haunting.
No. No, we are not.
Oh, it's called The Parenting.
Yes, but why? Why did you say? What was with the slip of the tongue? Tell the audience.
It is a horror comedy, and it probably is a take on The Haunting.
That was a question I had. What do you think about the title now that you've seen the film?
It was fine.
I don't know if I like the title.
There wasn't, like, the parents were there.
I guess I get it, because the dad was the demon.
Somehow I cut my finger.
How? What happened?
Probably the wine bottle.
Oh, yeah, because...
Blood.
Cheers. Today we're having some vino.
Right off the top, what did you think of this movie?
There were parts I really liked that really made me laugh. It's a horror comedy. I thought a lot of the horror visuals were actually genuinely scary. And I liked that it was heartwarming and it's centered around a gay couple without it really being about the fact that they were a gay couple. But there was something about it where my attention would ebb a little bit. And I don't know what that was all about. So I would say it's very pleasant. Like, you're not going to turn on and have a bad time. And the acting, let's just read the cast really quickly. We have Nick Dondy playing Rohan, Brandon Flynn as Josh, Parker Posey as Brenda, Vivian Bang as Sarah, Lisa Kudrow as Liddy, Dean Norris as Cliff, Brian Cox as Frank, and Eddie Falco as Sharon. And they all bring their A game for sure. But yeah, that's kind of what I thought. What about you?
I'd say it was like a funnier than usual streaming movie. Like, it was like perfectly fit to be a streaming movie, and I wasn't upset that it was made. I don't know if it needed to be made, but I was happy to see Brandon Flynn on the screen.
I don't know who this man is. Who is
He was
Brandon
in 13
Flynn?
Reasons Why. He would always wear the varsity jacket.
Let me go to his Wikipedia. I guess he's usually in drama. How do you think Brandon fared in the comedy world?
I thought he did really well.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
I agree. I thought my favorite scene, I would watch it. We watched it again. We watched it twice, this movie, is at the dinner table scene.
Brandon Flynn's character has this funny thing where he says that he's a musician. He like works at REI, gets fired. His boyfriend's kind of upset about it because he knows that his parents will be upset that Brandon Flynn doesn't have a job. And then Brandon Flynn's is like, well, I'm a singer. That's my main job. And they're having trouble connecting the Wi-Fi, which we'll get back to what's brilliant script writing in this movie about the Wi-Fi. But they can't connect to the Wi-Fi, so they're having trouble playing music. And then Brandon Flynn breaks out into song and he starts singing.
And I don't really love you,
You gotta
babe.
go higher.
I just keep you hanging on.
You gotta go, come on, my love, why don't you, baby?
And I don't really love you, babe. I just keep
Ooh.
you hanging on. But what I really appreciate about this scene is he starts singing and you think, so it's kind of been set up where his boyfriend Rohan really loves him, but is worried that his parents, who are pretty judgmental, are going to judge him for not having a job, for maybe not being the sharpest tool in the shed, for basically being nothing more than a pretty face. So he's kind of trying to prevent that from happening. He's like, don't mention REI. Then Brandon's character Josh ends up like doing a lot of faux pas when he first meets Rohan's parents, played by Lisa Kudrow and Dean Norris. And
He calls Dean Norris daddy.
and
Daddy.
And he almost makes, they have this dog that seems to be interested in women. And he makes a joke saying, oh, she likes to sniff certain parts of a woman. And the mom's obviously very offended because it wasn't a very smart thing to say, to be honest. And so
He also walks in on Eddie Falco on the toilet.
like, just a lot of bad stuff has happened. Then his parents come and they're played. Oh no, I'd messed up.
I was wondering.
I'm sorry,
I was like,
guys.
Dean Norris. I didn't realize that was the dad from Succession.
Sorry, everybody.
It's Brian Wilcox, right?
That's yeah, that was really Cox, but Brian Cox. That was really confusing. Rowan's parents are not played by Lisa Kudrow and Dean Norris. Those are Brandon Flynn's parents. Rohan, Nick Dondy's parents, Dodondy.
Why do you say his character's name?
Rohan's parents are played by Brian Cox from Succession, Logan Roy, and Edie Falco from Sopranos. And so that, I think that makes more sense with what I was saying.
Yeah, I was like, well, Allison knows Succession more than I do, but I could have sworn he had a different name.
But do you know where Dean is from?
Oh.
Dean Norris?
Do I know that Dean Norris is from Breaking Bad?
Okay, I was just checking.
My senior year of college, I went on a Breaking Bad wormhole and like did not leave my house and watch all of season 2. It was dangerous. Then I felt very ill afterwards.
I did that as well. My junior year of college, which makes sense because you're 1 year older than me. And I had this thing where I had this back problem. It's gone. It was my upper back. It always hurt. And the first season, all the seasons, Walter White has lung cancer. And so, of course, I Googled symptoms, and one was like unexplained back pain.
And then you Googled, how do I make blue crystal meth?
And I became Heisenberg.
Yeah. Do you think you would be the one who knocks?
I am the one who knocks. I'm the one who goes into the other room, closes the door, and hides behind the shower curtain. While the one who knocks. Back to what I was saying about the dinner table scene. So it's kind of like they've set up Brandon Flynn's character. He's made a lot of errors. He's on a downward trend, and you think he's going to fuck up again by singing this song. But then his mother begins to sing, Lisa Kudrow. And then, most surprisingly of all, Brian Cox begins to sing. And then the whole table singing, everyone's having this jolly moment. It's quite delightful because all these actors are fantastic.
Mm-hmm. On our first watch too, during the scene, before this all starts happening, Brandon Flynn keeps showing like he's feeding the dog under the table.
Yes.
And the first time it happens, you reacted.
Oh.
And I also was like confused. I was like, why did they show that close up of
The dog?
him feeding the
I
dog
don't
under the
remember
table? And then sure enough, like as they're all like singing like into it, I think Dean Norris or Brian Cox says out the password name. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden Brandon Flynn goes to put the dog food, like put like turkey under the table, and then a demon hand grabs Brandon Flynn.
This terrible demon. So it's this very awful, horrible image. You go from like, you think it's going to be a cringe moment, then it's a
happy,
fun moment, then it's a scary moment, and then it flips again where he does look like a big boob, basically. Everyone's like, why did you just jump up from the table and scream? And he says...
Yeah, what was the quote?
Little dirty person's hand reached out and grabbed
the
me.
writing, the dialogue in this movie was A+, which is hard to do.
I think so. I was reading a review in, I think it was Decider or Collider.
If they have a negative take, they're wrong.
Well, this was their take. And I do think they might be onto something where the scenes where it is more like family togetherness, mixed signals, miscommunication between these different types of people, it's a really high watermark. But then when the horror continues to get worse and it becomes more centered around, because spoiler alert, a demon is living in this house and it ends up inhabiting the body of Brian Cox, which is an excellent humorous choice because he's such a serious actor. Mm-hmm. The humor becomes more like body horror, body humor. Mm-hmm. The dialogue was maybe a little bit less sharp.
Yeah.
And I do think
and that's why I tuned out.
I think so. Because like, you know what's going on. You don't need to
when Brian Cox
laser focus.
Yeah, when Brian Cox is possessed, I start kind of checking out.
He did a great
watches.
Like,
He's great.
It was very fun to see him do it, but I didn't need to see it to that extent necessarily. No. And the scenes where they're kind of piecing together the mythology of the demons.
Don't care. Except I do like the reveal. Rowan, is that his name or is that the actor's name?
Rowan, yeah.
And what's Brandon Flynn's character's name?
I think it's Josh. Josh.
Rowan and Josh, they go next door to where Parker Posey is.
We didn't even say who she was yet.
So she's the one who, it's revealed here that this whole movie starts out in a flashback in 1983 and a family, mom, son, and daughter all get killed by an off-screen demon.
Yeah.
And we like come to the present. Rohan and Josh have come to this house. Rohan has secretly planned to propose to Josh. They both invited their parents. It's supposed to be this weekend getaway. Parker Posey's the Airbnb host, who is kind of has this hilarious like long ass ponytail reveal or braid.
No, she had a wig.
But it like looks short from the front.
But I don't know if you know, when she was walking on the screen, I was laughing and I was trying to point it to you. I
didn't see it until she turned around and did the full reveal. On the second watch, I saw it this time because I was looking for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she invites them to the house and then she's acting she's being like her zany self. But then she comes out, Rohan and Josh have like a question. They come out there and she's like dragging a stick around the house. And she's like, oh, I forget what she says, what she's doing. But it turns out she's like drawing like a circle around the house because she was the one with her friend back in 1983 that summoned a demon that ended up killing the family. Because she stayed in the circle, she was safe and survived. And now she has to feed the demon families. It seems like this is the first family that's renting this house. I don't know if they're the first one to be sacrificed.
That is confusing because it does seem like she's been doing it since the 80s.
But anyway, Rowan and Josh go over to the house, to Parker Posey's house next door. where Parker Posey like gives the whole backstory of everything that I just shared. But the brilliant thing is in these flashbacks, Parker Posey herself plays her teenage self.
Which was genius. It was genius. I feel like if you want to know what the tone of this movie was, it was that.
Yeah. And you even said there was a review somewhere where they said like Parker Posey knew the tone really well. And only like...
I can read the quote.
She's such a specific... she has such a specific delivery.
Okay. Actually, this was a review from The Guardian. And it said... The standard of jokes takes a sharp nosedive as puerile, lowbrow farce replaces relatably awkward humor, and even a game cast struggles to handle the silliness of it, grimly trying to make fart and dick jokes work. As things get goofier, the only actor able to truly sell any of it is Parker Posey, playing the owner of the house whose presence becomes a saving grace. The actor able to turn the slightest of movements or pronunciations into a laugh-out-loud moment. And that's very true of Parker Posey.
Yeah.
But they still, this review concludes saying... But while she is able to swiftly identify and nail the exact right tone, everyone else starts to scramble. As a comedy, it stops being funny, and as a horror, it never starts being scary, with Johnson's direction far too drab and lifeless for something so cartoonish and schlocky. Big swing, big or miss. I don't fully agree with that at all. Like, I really was entertained. And I think, I don't know, there's something nice about it being kind of just a pleasant horror comedy where you see these great actors. And also just like from the queer perspective, I love that this is a movie about meeting the parents that's not the happiest season, where, you know, it's like, oh no, we didn't come out.
But it's similar vibes to Happiest Season.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
If you, like, even visually, even casting wise,
that's true.
it has like Happiest Season vibes.
Because the casting, I mean, you get the big actors for the parents, and then more unknown, even if Brandon Flynn is some kind of big known actor. I don't know who he is. Brandon, is that his name?
I mean, he's not like a huge celebrity, but he's beautiful.
He's beautiful. No, he did a great job. He was great. I hope to see more of him. I just
Alice said she
didn't
doesn't
know
think
him.
he's attractive though, because he has really masculine features.
I didn't say masculine. I said hard features. Like he didn't have like his face is objectively beautiful,
Like chiseled.
but sometimes that is attractive. But there's just something about it. It was almost like it was too perfect of a face, you know?
He was in a movie. He had to cover himself like a mummy because he was so beautiful. If anyone were to look at his face, they would die.
Well, that's funny.
He just got married recently.
Two.
I think some like artist or model or fashion person. And I think they wore like bondage gear.
To the wedding.
Yeah.
We look, but we do not judge, as the kids like to say. Or what is the thing that they say? We see, but we do not judge. You know?
Is that what they say?
There's something going on TikTok where, and then everyone's now using the clip from The White Lotus of Walter Goggins reacting to Sam Rockwell's monologue. And it's just his face, like, with his surprised eyebrows being like, we look, but we do not judge. Or like, we listen, but we do not judge. That's what it is. We listen.
I'm editing a video where it's 20 high schoolers in a room asking each other out to prom. And it's so funny, just like all the slang they're using. I'm like, this sounds like I can already tell how this will be very dated and not too long. Like Riz.
I feel like that's already fallen out of fashion, Riz.
They're all saying it, and they're all saying period. Like
use it in a sentence.
Period. Like say like a bold statement that I would agree with.
Even though this movie is a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it rocks.
Period.
Okay, interesting.
And then someone said chuzz.
I don't know what that is.
Neither do I.
I was never really a big slang person, though.
But it's in our vernacular.
Wait, what was the word?
Vernacular?
No, the slang word.
Oh.
Is that in the vernacular? I don't think
Well,
so.
not our, but I mean, we probably say things that we don't even realize that are like millennial vernacular.
I absolutely do. Absolutely.
Like cringy, I feel like cringe.
Yeah.
Or that person has charisma, because we don't say Riz, we say the full word.
Sometimes I was saying Riz a little bit, but I stopped. I don't know.
Riz. I immediately think of like a broccoli head boy.
Remember when I told you, okay, we're really going off on tangents. Remember when I saw an article about the broccoli haircut was in? And I was like, Joe, look, this haircut's in. And you're like, it's been in for a while.
Well, also you need like curly hair or you'd have to get a perm.
I love the idea of guys getting perms.
Have you gotten a perm?
No.
I remember reading. Yeah. You guys. How did I come across this? I don't know. Okay, so I
don't even know where you're going with this.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the wine or what, but it's going
Okay. My sister used to get the American Girl on magazine. And I loved looking at all the new updates.
I like that too. And I would want to buy it all.
But I never read the books, but I definitely came across the story of Molly
Yeah.
where
I had Molly. I had her.
like really wanted to get a perm really bad.
Oh.
And she got a perm before a dance.
Oh, and is that when her dad comes home from war?
Was she like not allowed to get a perm?
To be honest, I don't know when perms. My knowledge of perms comes from Legally Blonde. I don't really know much about perms. Don't take
I
a
wasn't
shower.
really asking you about the history of perms. I was more just asking if you've heard of that short story. With,
Well, I remember. I mean, I had Molly, the American Girl
you had
doll.
all of them.
Between me and my sister, yes. I don't share that fact widely, but I put out there on the podcast because I just feel like it makes me seem like a really rich, annoying kid. But I really wasn't like that. For some reason, we just had all the American Girl dolls.
Not by choice.
But okay, we're really going down. I just want to keep going down this side trail. So Caroline and I would get to pick our American Girl dolls, and I think the ones I picked were all kind of similar. Like
The boring ones.
They're all like rich.
Molly, Samantha, which were basically the same doll.
And who else did I have?
Kate.
You mean Kit?
God damn it.
Me and my sister both had Kit. Because we were going to fight over one Kit. So where were we?
Josh. And
Oh.
we'll talk about just like Parker Posey setting it up. Kind of like the weaker parts of the story are when it's focused on
the demon and the mythology.
But yeah, like Parker Posey can pull it off to a
Mm-hmm.
degree. But even then, like the finale, when they're all like, the whole idea is like the demon, if they say the word, then the demon will like go into the other person. And then they all decide, the family together, they realize that they all say the word at the same time. Then the demon's trying to go to different sources and it becomes weaker and weaker until eventually it becomes its original self and then they can kill it.
And then there's something about the circle where if they trap it in this, it can stay alive in the circle unless it's in the form of a human, then it can step outside of the circle. But if it's not in its form and it leaves the circle, it dies. I think that's the gist. But all of that like wasn't really, I mean, you can make up any rules for any kind of horror creature, right? And what makes like horror good or exciting is when those rules map onto something else. So in Hereditary, right? There's all these like crazy rules about demons, but it's a story about a family who's had a terrible tragedy with a mom who maybe is going a little crazy. You know what I mean? Like there's like more behind the mythology and
We look and we do not judge, Allison.
yeah. So that's, I suppose, where I feel like it was a little bit less highbrow, but I just think it was enjoyable and pleasant.
If you were to propose to your partner, would you surprise them or would you tell them beforehand that you were proposing? Would you ever do the proposing?
The reason Joe's asking this for the audience is because this movie is like the happiest season in that Rohan's planning to propose and he's texting his friend about it. The friend ends up showing up later on and Josh sees the phone and knows it's going to happen. So then he's trying to be even like...
Well, he's like on the phone with the friend and the friend reveals it.
On accident,
Oh,
I think.
through text, you're
yeah.
right.
And then he becomes really on edge and then eventually it's like revealed that this was going to... He kind of accidentally reveals he already knows and Rohan's upset. And then in the end of the movie, Josh ends up proposing to Rohan because they've come to a stronger place in their relationship. And that's all nice, well, and good. But to answer your question, would I surprise or would I...
Two questions. First of all, would you ever propose to someone or would you always want to be proposed to?
I would propose, I think.
Secondly, would you surprise the person or would you be like, I am going to propose to you tomorrow on the top of a hill?
Okay, I have an answer. And the first is I would absolutely propose, but if I were to propose, I think it would probably be like a Lorelai Gilmore spoiler. Sorry, Joe, I know you're still early on in your Gilmore Girls rewatch, which we'll have to do when we have a Patreon behind the closed doors. So, but I'm still going to spoil it for you. I'm sorry. So Lorelai ends up proposing to Luke herself, and she does it. And I won't.
What?
I won't tell you why.
If he says yes or no.
No, I won't tell you why because I think that's a bigger spoiler. But it's in a moment.
He's dying?
It's in a no.
It's to make another woman jealous.
No. It's in a moment where he does something that shows her how deep his love is, you know what I mean? And how right he is for her.
He brews a really good cup of coffee. And
That's you were paying attention to seasons 1 and 2. She does like coffee.
I look up for my American Girl doll magazine every now and then while watching Gilmore Girls.
I'm gonna let you think that's what it was. Okay, good. So I could see myself doing that, like if I was with a partner for a long time and then there was some kind of moment where I just saw how strong the bond was or how committed they were to me or whatever like the thing is, I could see myself doing it spontaneously. But if I had more time to think, I really think it would depend on the person. I would want it to be suited to the person. So if the other person didn't like surprises or things like that, I wouldn't want to do it that way. But if they liked surprises, then I would. And that's my answer. What about you?
I imagine myself proposing, but I also wouldn't be mad getting proposed to.
What's fun about this is that there really are no rules in the queer world about how proposals are supposed to go.
And I think I'd want to do it in a surprising way, but
Flash mob.
Most definitely.
Wicked.
Yeah. No one mows the wicked.
There's actually a marriage song where Glinda's talking about how she's going to get married, so you could do it.
I would surprise them, but without a doubt, we'd have a conversation being like, hey, do you want to get married?
I didn't, yes.
And then I'd probably wait like 3 months and then I'd propose.
I think most modern, could be wrong, I think most modern couples probably at least chat about that kind of stuff. Because
I hope.
But spontaneity, love, we listen and we do not judge.
Yeah.
And I really actually mean that sincerely. It didn't sound like I did.
It is becoming a little bit of the punchline of this episode. But.
Yes. What did you think of like the relationship, the proposal, the queer angle to the film?
I liked it. I thought they were like a pleasant couple to watch. Rohan, of course, that actor is from Atypical.
Oh, I didn't know
Another
that.
Netflix show. So I wonder if they all switched teams to Max. I wonder if there's some drama there.
Ooh, maybe.
But then, of course, Parker Posey, White Lotus is Max. Brian Cox, Succession, Max.
So you think they're all just...
Lisa Kudrow, Friends was sold to Max. What's going on here?
So,
Eddie Falco, Sopranos, Max.
So you think they just called in all their favors?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Now I wonder how they got the 2 young people, especially my beautiful Brandon Flynn.
Do you think that how do you think they built the cast? Do you think they cast the youth first, or do you think they went after Brian Cox first, or who do you think kind of, if you were an agent, you're an agent, or I don't really know how it works. I should know how the sauce gets made, but I don't. And you're one of those power players and you're putting together a package.
I wonder if the writer had like a person in like Parker Posey in mind, but I imagine they cast one of the parents first.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of like fell into place.
I think so.
And then I think the young people, like, as much as I love Brandon Flynn, I think they were pretty like interchangeable.
I think you're probably
However,
right.
I think they did do some really good job. I mean, yeah, Brandon I really haven't seen in comedy, but
I thought he was good.
Rohan's what is his real name?
I think it's Neek.
Neek he's like the comedic relief in Atypical. So I could see him in this. He like fit right in. So Brandon Flynn, I was like pleasantly surprised because aside from just like his dinner table singing, I thought he had some like hilarious deliveries too, where there's one point where Brandon Flynn is like playing the guitar in like what would you call that room? The
library.
The library. And then I forget the dialogue that happens between them, but he has some funny joke about like giving up on his music. He's like,
well, Rohan's like, you don't even have a music career or something. He's like, I will just abandon my career and then he's like, you don't even have one. But then there's like a demon woman in the background with her like back to the wall crying. And Rohan's like, there's a woman back there. There's a woman back there. And he's like, what? Just say it. Just say what you're going to say about my music career. He's like, no, there's music, but there's a woman back there. And then he turns around and what does he do?
He goes, oh no. And then he runs away.
Yeah, that was really great. Yeah, there were some good moments.
And this movie has a strong start too. Honestly, all I really care about is a good setup. And I feel like this setup.
You are a setup man.
Honestly, I could like turn off a movie after the setup.
I am more of an ending person. I'm going to go ahead and say. Like, I think that for me, if a movie starts off poorly and it has a really great conclusion, I might be more forgiving and I might end up liking the movie.
Wow.
But I can't think of an example to back up this claim. So I'm trying to think of
a weak beginning, bad ending.
No, good ending.
I'm sorry.
It's like, that's a bad movie.
Our family, I've told this on the podcast before, so I'll make it an abridged version. Does abridged mean shorter?
Yes. Unabridged, I think. Why do they even have those?
I know. It's like,
so side note, I always get confused, but I think abridged is shorter.
But like how much so?
I mean, I think they like will make abridged versions of very long books for young readers or for
people with short attention spans.
People who don't like to read.
People who only like the beginnings of books.
Yeah.
So my abridged version of this story is our family every weekend back, I think in 2002, we all gathered together. We'd watch
say.
Moulin Rouge. We were obsessed with that. And anytime we'd have guests over to our house, we would watch Moulin Rouge on a Saturday night. That movie has a really strange and dark opening, and it's a Baz Luhrmann film. And I feel like Baz Luhrmann's definitely like an acquired taste. It's like very fast moving, fast cutting. And it starts out really dark and kind of murky and unappealing. But then, of course, it unfolds to the amazing musical that it is.
Absolutely.
But funny enough, the ending is kind of tragic, which I wish it wasn't so.
From what I remember, I've only seen Moulin Rouge 2 times, which makes no sense
That
because I
doesn't
was
make
at
any
your
sense.
house all the
It doesn't make any
time.
sense.
But we usually, I don't know, we were usually watching whatever Netflix DVD had arrived at your house, and we didn't. I've said this before too, but we didn't have the Netflix DVDs subscription, so I was very excited to be at your house. With the
Moulin
DVDs.
Rouge we did own on DVD though, because we burned through that all the
course.
time. All right, what next?
Well, I was going to mention about the parents. Lisa Kudrow also plays the mother of a queer character in an excellent Netflix show called Feel Good. Have you seen that show? It's a Mae Martin show.
Who was that?
A comedian. It's a really excellently written show. So I just wanted to shout her out for Lisa out for being the moms in these queer films. I think that rocks.
How's the beginning?
Of Feel Good? Excellent. So the premise of Feel Good is that Mae Martin plays a comedian who's a recovered addict. And then there's a girl, Georgie, who comes to see her stand up and has come multiple times and seems kind of into Mae Martin's character. And then they fall in love, and Mae Martin's character they both kind of are like addicted to one another, like the feeling of love, like feeling good, but they each have their respective issues. Like Georgie's not out, has never had a relationship with a woman or someone who, because another part of the story is Mae Martin's kind of like gendered.
Does May have the short blonde haircut?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really good show.
Okay.
It's excellent.
I'll watch it.
Side note. Okay, so you were pro of the queer representation. I think.
Wait, I was pro the queer representation.
Well, I asked you generally, and then you.
Yeah. You're anti.
No, not anti. I just want to discuss some thoughts about it, which is that I liked how there was very little. Well, okay, I think the homophobia portion we could talk about maybe a little bit more in depth. So there was very little homophobia, kind of.
The demon was homophobic. That's Brian Cox.
Which, in watching it a second time, I actually do kind of have questions about that decision.
It was really necessary.
I agree. Like, I liked the idea of like tying that to something demonic. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that kind of behavior is so beyond the pale. Like, his real dad doesn't have those views. None of the adults have that view, but this demon does. You know, it's kind of like showing you how ridiculous or rotten those thoughts are or whatever. But the language he uses is pretty vulgar to be homophobic. And I'm like, I don't really think we needed that.
No, we don't.
Especially because it didn't have like a wider point about homophobia.
No.
So there's that. But otherwise, I really appreciate this was a queer story where like that didn't really matter to the story. It was just like two people who want to get married, who like need to meet the parents. And we've all seen Meet the Parents. Comedy ensues. It's just like a normal movie.
Of hijinks.
Of hijinks.
Demon hijinks. And Parker Posey.
And Parker Posey. Oh, and then Joe and I have previously said on this podcast that we've seen so many queer movies that are kind of this coupley drama or dramedy comedy approach. And always one set of parents is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And this time they were both alive and present in the story.
It's interesting because Nick Rohan is adopted.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was, an interesting choice.
And then so what? I mean, I guess the...
Oh, you're saying like are his parents. So there are dead. Oh, you're saying that maybe there were some passed away parents actually. And
I mean, they are passed away, but like those are his parents in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying though.
But there's still some, we don't really get the backstory. It's like not important. And
yeah,
again, they had to hire from their HBO cast of crew. So
I suppose I was interested that they kind of made Rohan the character. They even like his mom says later on in the movie to Lisa Kudrow, they initially don't get along, but they have this moment of connection. And she goes, you know, I always told Rohan like he was different. He was different from the other boys. He didn't act like them. He didn't look like them. I said, you have to be perfect. You can't make any mistakes or they'll call you out for it. And so they're kind of constructing Rohan as this like perfectionist. In contrast to his significant other, which I did think was interesting, given that he is like Southeast Asian. and how that isn't unexpected. That's almost not an unexpected like trope or stereotype you might put onto that story, but then the fact that he's adopted and queer, like it does feel kind of fresh. But I would like to hear. I mean, we don't really have anyone to ask, but I would love to hear someone's perspective on that kind of element of it, because it did strike me as interesting that it was different, but also kind of tied to a stereotype at the same time.
Yeah. In the car on the way to the house,
Yes.
Josh is driving and he looks over at Rohan and he's like, starts getting excited. And Rohan's like, no, stop it, Josh. We can't. He's like, the dog's in the car. Like, gets to a punchline. And I turned to Allison. I was like, is that how every relationship, at the very least on TV, is like, you have to have that, like the person that in the relationship who like is really eager for sex, and then the one who's really like coy and demure and doesn't want to give it to sex and is always pushing them away, is like the push and pull. Like I
think there's something dramatic about that, or comedic, right? Like there's like inherently a conflict, but
and like, would Josh be asexual if
he was
Rohan was like more like,
well, no,
sure, let's do it.
Probably not.
Because
right?
it's like the cute element about it is
it's like the push and the pull.
Yeah,
the push and the pull. It was a good thought. I mean, it's a good question, because I definitely think that's a trope, and maybe it's also real to life. I don't know.
And how would it have been if like Rohan was the one that was pushing more, and then Josh was the one that, no, I'm a sensitive artist.
I mean, unfortunately, because of his face being so beautiful, Josh's, I feel like there is. Wow, I feel like we're about to get into some really deep kind of stereotypical, like how do stereotypes function. Like I feel like we're not going to read that readily, because he seems so hot, right? So we're going to think he's going to be the sexual one. And it's interesting because I feel like with female characters and their representation, we're more aware of like the Megan Fox effect, where you put a really hot woman in the film and they read as a sex object, or read by the camera, by the director, the male gaze, to be this kind of, to be sexualized, you know what I'm saying? And we kind of see that in a negative light, or at least we can talk about it. I feel like we don't really have that same language for men, even though I think that does happen in queer film. We're like the very hot, I mean, Rohan's a very attractive man too, but you know what I'm saying? Like does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, but then, so doesn't this play against that? Shouldn't Rohan be the, like, if we're saying like Rohan's very attractive, but like Brendan Flynn with his chiseled features, like wouldn't Rohan be the, like?
But I guess because we associate male, I guess there's like another layer to this with male sexuality being aggressive, and so the hot one is going to be the like sexual one.
I disagree.
Really?
King of Queens, it's like the husband is this like overweight guy that has a really attractive wife.
Yeah. But I'm saying like specifically I know what you're saying, like yes, in heterosexual representation.
Oh.
But in queer representation on the screen as it is right now, I feel like if you put in a hot man who's gay, they're going to be like super sexual.
Really?
Yeah. I can't think of an example where...
You cannot?
Well, I mean, I'm sure I can if I really thought about it. Do you know what I'm saying though?
No. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
I'm trying to think of another example.
I'm listening and I am judging.
Let me think of another example. Give me another queer movie that's recent, or a TV show.
Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah, I mean, don't you feel like Armie Hammer is the kind of I mean, I don't want to say...
He's the older one.
Yeah.
That's different because it's like a young and old dynamic.
Yeah.
Just Google gay movies. Gaymovies.com.
Yes. Gay... Bad idea. What is gay? Okay, this is not helpful. Okay.
What's going on over there? Don't you all just like a Google search top 10 queer movies? You're acting like
they're giving me bad.
Like, well, I want to see your screen. What does it say?
I was looking at ChatGPT, but the one time we got a commenter that didn't like that I was using ChatGPT, so I was trying not to reveal that I was using it.
But that's like a Googleable question.
But I actually think that like that's where you can actually use ChatGPT in a fun way, where you're like,
can you? Because it's you seem
no,
very confused
that was
at that
absolutely
moment.
not. Okay, let's pick something else.
But why?
I'm not getting any.
Why you like sat there for like a minute being really disturbed by what you were looking at? I was
getting like all of a strangers. Like, I'm not going to talk about.
No, it's like, why you just Google it really quickly?
I was getting like challengers and all of us strangers, which are not going to fit into that. I mean, like be like Hallmark Channel or like B movie.
I feel like that could work on ChatGPT.
Things weren't coming up, okay?
What popped up?
Smoggy Queens. Younger Hearts. Agatha All Along. Baby Reindeer, it's not going to fit with the boyfriend. It was actually a lot of international stuff, I think, is being pulled, but which is great. But I don't know about that.
Did you say the Smoggy Daughter?
Smoggy Queens. I'm sure it's great, but what is that? I don't know. I need to start again. Well, what about even in like The White Lotus season 2? What was the queer element of The White Lotus season 2? There was no queer element.
Why did you choose that of all for once? Okay,
actually, I found something that's a counterpoint, so maybe I'm wrong. Queer. We just watched Queer. We just covered it on the podcast. The more attractive, more youthful person is the withholding person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just think that there's something about sexualizing the hot person. And I think it happens to straight women. I think it happens to gay men. And that's just what I think, even though there might be no evidence to support me.
Okay, but so you're saying Megan Fox is the really hot one, and all the men are approaching her.
I guess I see what you're saying.
You're like, Brandon Flynn's the really hot one, and he's the one that is the sexual aggressor. I was like, well, that's the opposite of what you're saying.
I guess I just mean, and also I think it's playing into another stereotype.
Let me look up examples.
I think it's playing into...
And then you find the Smoggy Queen.
I think it's playing into another stereotype, though, where Asian men are not sexualized on the screen. So you have someone, you know what I'm saying, where it's like the hot one, and then someone who's not seen as sexual.
Now that I'm intrigued.
Okay,
and I agree
I got
with.
there.
You got there.
Yeah. So I think there's multiple things at play, but it is like important to be aware of those stereotypes when you're watching film and TV. I think that this film did a really good job of actually not.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there were things that I could see that reading as stereotypical.
Would you say that's the main focus of the parenting is
stereotypes?
Is the goal of breaking stereotypes?
I do think so in a way, because it was just like this queer story where...
I mean, I guess that's what comedy is, right?
I think it had nothing to do with that. Like, it was like, here's some...
Oh, no, it has nothing to do with that.
Which I think was good. I think it's nice to have a normal movie about queer people.
That's a normal movie.
What did you think of the attempt to... All of the characters have kind of emotional beats in the last third of the movie to kind of bring them some character catharsis. Or like, for example, the dad who is possessed. They set up in the beginning that he's someone who's not very good at communicating his emotions, which also sounds like a stereotype, but they did it in a way where it was he wasn't like a harsh dad or someone who wasn't in touch with his emotions. He just wasn't good with words, which I thought was like unique. And Brian Cox did a really good job of portraying that. But that was part of his arc where, you know, at the end, he's able to say what he feels, and that's very moving to me. But I feel like they tried to do that with every character, and I don't know how successful it was. Like, what do you think?
They weren't successful, is my answer. Especially, I feel like Dean Wilson. I don't know that poor guy. Like, is that his name? Dean Wilson.
Dean Wilson? You mean Hank from Breaking Bad?
Is that his name?
No, it's Dean Norris. So I guess.
You're like actually like you don't even have one correct letter in what you just said. Is how you acted.
It just sounded so wrong to my ears.
Wait, what did I say?
Dean Wilson. It's like,
what's his name?
Dean Norris.
Isn't there some other guy named Dean Norris?
I'll find out.
He has like red hair from like the 80s.
Not to be confused with. That's what the Wikipedia page says. Dan Norris.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Are you sure? He was the mayor of West England.
I'm obsessed with the mayor of West England. No, I'm thinking of Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris. Dean Norris. He didn't have much to do in this movie.
No, and
the least of all the parents.
He was pretty funny though. Like every line he really did a good job with. But yeah, at the end, he had a sweet moment with his son. The actors are so good that it kind of sold it for me, these emotional beats where I felt things, even though I was like, but I don't know why I feel anything because they didn't lay any groundwork. He tells his son, he's like, I just want you to know in case we don't survive, I think you're really cool. Like, I've always loved you. I've always liked you, but I never told you I thought you were cool, which I thought was really sweet. Yeah. But I was kind of like, why is this in the movie? Yeah. But no, he didn't have a lot to do.
And then also Eddie Falco at the end. I think we missed, I think it was a callback to something. They're like, the demons like going to all the different bodies. And then Eddie Falco like makes like a robot noise. And she's like, I am a robot.
And they're like, that's
and Lisa
Kudrow's
like, you're not helping. And she's like, oh. And I was like, why?
I guess we missed that.
Both times. I
feel like those parents, Edie, Falco, isn't it Edie?
It is Edie.
Edie Falco and Brian Cox's storylines were just much more well sketched, where I did buy their emotional arcs, whereas, yeah, Dean, Norris, and Lisa Kudrow had less to do, weirdly.
Yeah, they were hard to lock down.
I guess because they were just like the accepting weird kind of like lame parents, you know what I mean? So it was sort of like they were not the, quote, there were no villains, but they weren't the villains, you know, who needed to change. I mean, there's
that was a demon.
Yeah, but like if this was a movie without the demons, the bad parents and the ones causing conflicts would have been
Just a huge misunderstanding.
But I have a fun story about Dean Norris.
I was going to say about demons.
We can tell our demon stories next.
What about Dean Norris?
So when he was on Breaking Bad, I watched him in an interview, and he apparently went to Harvard.
Why apparently? Did he say in the interview that he went to Harvard?
Yeah, he went there.
Allegedly.
I mean, I'm saying he went to Harvard, and I'm telling you, I don't actually. I'm just gonna confirm.
Again, you have your laptop out. You can just Google it.
He did Harvard University.
Allegedly.
The senior year, he was going for interviews in New York City at different financial firms, and he was like go on the company's dime, but he was secretly using that to go on auditions because he really wanted to be an actor.
Whoa.
Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
But yeah, I feel like, you know, he was so great in Breaking Bad, and I just haven't seen him in a lot. For really all of those actors, they kind of disappeared.
I mean, Brian Cox was in Succession most recently.
No, I meant, sorry, the Breaking Bad people. But yeah, Brian Cox obviously just had a huge turn.
Yeah.
People should watch that show. It's a good show.
Breaking Bad or Succession.
Both.
You have to use the noun so we know what you're talking about.
In my mind, it makes sense.
I know it makes sense in your mind.
They also tried to have this arc where Josh, all the family members who weren't in his own family were like, is he just, you're with this guy? Isn't he just a pretty face? Like they were definitely judging him. And they did kind of make him seem like just a pretty face. Like even his singing, Rohan later says he's actually really good. But when he's sang, not the scene at the dinner table, which was delightful, but he like showed off his singing for, I think, Brian's character. And it was really like kind of cheesy. And I didn't think he was very talented. And I thought they were suggesting he actually wasn't very good at music either.
I think so.
So then I was like, okay, we got to figure out what his golden...
More so that his lyricism wasn't up to par yet. Because I feel like the voice doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
It's
the emotion.
heart.
But what I'm saying is that I felt...
You hate his singing.
No.
And he doesn't deserve
It's not
to
about
pursue his dreams.
It's not about the singing. It's about how they suggested there was nothing beyond his pretty face to make him a worthy companion.
Yeah.
Then later on in the movie, they try to suggest he's really brave.
And he's cool.
And he's cool. But I'm like, wow, what are we supposed to...
Yeah.
What is his quality that's supposed to be great? And I wish they had maybe given him one.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. That he was brave.
Also...
Demons don't come around all that often. You don't need to be brave every day.
I feel like there's like a lot of like superficial qualities about him, I'm sure. But he's also really fit, which means he takes care of himself, so he's healthy.
Isn't that also superficial?
Dedication. He's dedicated.
But isn't it also kind of just like about your appearance, which is a little shallow?
Dedicated and motivated, but it probably is like good qualities that also Rohan can also apply. And then this is a vacation. They're having fun. He's singing. He's not focused on
he was the
what
fun.
notes he's hitting.
I see what you're saying.
Kind of. I'm vamping.
What does that mean?
It just kind of means like when you run out of thing to say, you just kind of start
Is that what the kids are saying in your video?
No.
Is that a new word or is it
No, it's an old word.
I'm vamping.
It's more like old Hollywood slang.
I see.
Like you're up at like an award ceremony, for example, and the teleprompter stops. Then you start vamping, or you're like ahead of schedule, so you have to like vamp to like make up time, that kind of stuff.
Well, that was another element they tried to kind of give him like a hero's arc, but I just didn't buy it. Especially because then they switched halfway through and they wanted Rohan to learn how to be brave like Josh. Because I guess the part with the demon lady in the corner, Rohan gets scared and doesn't try and like help Josh when he gets like pulled.
And to clarify, it's the mom who was first murdered in 1983.
Yes.
And they're trying to actually warn. So it's about how demons, sometimes you can't judge a book by its cover.
Oh. Yeah, so those are some of the notes I took down during this viewing.
What about the first viewing? What were your notes?
I don't have any notes the first viewing.
I like how you clarified though that it was this viewing that you took the note.
You know, this viewing I was locked into my analytical brain. But last viewing I was kind of just... I don't know what I was doing.
Watching a movie.
But you know, I really can't...
Watch movies.
I feel like I'm just...
What do I do with my eyes?
Like,
Where do
are
I
you-
look? At the screen? At the ceiling?
I do think that, don't you... Okay, do you do this? I feel like most people do this. You're watching something, but you're a little bit anticipating, or I think everyone does it, guessing what's going to happen. even if it's not conscious, because that's like when something's suspenseful, it's working because your brain is like, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And this crazy thing happens. So I'm always kind of like thinking and analyzing what I'm watching. And I think everybody is on some level.
Yeah.
They just making sure. You know what I'm saying? Like passively watching. I don't know. Do we ever really? If I'm on my phone, yeah, I'm passively watching.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm probably.
I feel like I'm usually. I mean, yeah, that's the whole point of watching movies.
I think so.
Is because even feeling something is
Yeah.
a reaction
Exactly.
that required your brain to process what you were seeing on the screen.
Exactly.
Even a laugh, a chuckle,
Yes.
even admiring Brandon Flynn's beautiful face
all of it
is
active watching.
yeah. So anyway, that's our review of The Parenting.
Do we have anything else you want to say about it?
What's your favorite B movie?
Well, okay, I want to kind of Google B movies, top B movies. Like I don't know if I have a favorite B movie.
You could say The Happiest Season. The Happiest Season I feel like is a B movie. It was a streaming movie.
I think it's a B plus movie.
Which is still a B.
Well, what about Mamma Mia? Is that a B movie?
No.
Okay.
Like how you immediately accepted that as if I'm the one who made the rules.
Here, this is an article from Paste Magazine, the 100 best B
Ooh,
movies
Paste
of all
Magazine.
time. I want you to guess what the number one B movie
Give
is.
me a hint.
Okay, I've never heard of this movie. That's clue number one. It came out in 1987. That's clue number two. It's directed by Andy Sidaris.
They live under siege.
Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
I've never heard of that movie before.
But number two, I think you have heard, and here's a clue. We were going to see it when we went to Chicago, but we didn't because of me.
Oh, The Room.
Yeah.
I'd call that.
You know, I'm not really into, I don't think that's a B movie.
That's a D movie.
Yeah.
That gained a cult following.
I'm not into that. I'm not into that.
Anyway,
We could talk about that another time.
another time. Thank you so much for listening to Queer Cinema Catchup. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
We do weekly podcasts. We sometimes do episode recaps of TV shows. We chat, we talk, we comment, we email.
We have fun.
So since we do all that, the least you could do.
You're sounding so...
Sorry, the demon possessed me for a second. Subscribe, like, comment,
Yes.
share our podcast with your friends.
Yes. Tell us what your favorite B movie is. What B movies are we missing?
Yeah.
Tell us. Please.